Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to the wrong side because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Okay, guys, today's date, January 5th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. On How the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before I do get started, guys, let you know that we do try to keep this a family-friendly podcast, which means that sometimes we do try to watch our language, but sometimes words do fly, and sometimes we may show things that might be of a significant nature and might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, this might as well just be called, this entire midweek review that we have might as well be called 1 year later, because I feel like for a lot of this, we're just repeating exactly what we did off 2021. Specifically starting with schools, especially with the surge of the Omicron variant, which again is interesting, but yet I feel like we're making the very same decisions all over again. So as you can see, it's like, yes, we are about to, for a lot of people, for a lot of kids, coming off winter break, school is about to resume again, and we find ourselves right back in the same situation. With the Omicron variant being extremely aggressive and the fact that more cases are popping up throughout the United States. And again, we present the question of, should kids go back to school? Now, if you've been following this podcast since last year, I have said it that it was a dangerous idea at first for kids to go to school, because at first kids were not approved for the vaccine. And you had a whole bunch of parents, specifically the ones in Williamson County, because I covered that story too, where they lost their minds over their kids wearing masks in a public school system. I mean, to the point to where they were going after the actual council people. So again, when you have a wonderful, progressively backward state like Tennessee, where the people would rather not wear masks all day, but yet still wonder why they have an amazing high count of COVID cases, it brings back the same thing we've been facing a year ago. Do kids go back to school? As most places, most states have already said they may go back to remote learning for a while, just because the case is being so high, and the fact that children are still trying to get vaccinated, which a lot of people are saying, because as of right now, the FDA has approved vaccinations for kids from ages 5 all the way up to 15. So kids can be vaccinated now, but parents also have to worry about the fact of bringing COVID back home, especially if they have elderly and other people who are immunocompromised and things of that nature. So it's like even though it's 2022, I feel like it's 2021 all over again, because it's like, what do we do at this point? What have we learned? Have we actually made headway in this, which I like to think we have. But at the same time, it's like, do I still think as of right now, kids should go back to school? I'm going to be honest. I don't think so. I think that until we get the numbers back down again, until we actually get kids vaccinated and, really do a mask mandate. I know in Tennessee, there's not a mask mandate because Governor Lee is spineless. And at the same time, if the mayor decided that he was going to do some mask mandate, then Governor Lee would just strike that down saying that, people should be allowed to choose what they want to do. Well, if they did that, people have been allowed to choose what they want to do. And that's how we still wound up with COVID right about now. But it's just, I get the fact that kids are going to have a hard time with remote learning. A lot of kids do have learning challenges, and that a lot of those learning challenges are usually solved in person with the teacher. I completely get it, understand it. But the problem is, how many of us are willing to sacrifice, are willing to really roll the dice on our kids' lives just because we want them back in school? I would love to see kids back in school as much as the next person, but not at the expense of increasing cases to where, again, COVID can spread, especially among the vaccinated and unvaccinated. But again, we've been saying this in this podcast. Get vaccinated. It's going to help you beat this virus. It's going to help you beat this pandemic. Nothing's going to prevent you from getting COVID, but at least with the vaccine, you have a greater chance of actually beating it and not being one of these stories that we talk about where unvaccinated get COVID and they're telling you from their deathbed that they wish they actually made a better decision. So get vaccinated. It's not that hard. But like I said, we should be speaking on 1 year later because, again, for all those that don't know, tomorrow is January the 6th. For all those that don't remember, that was the failed coup d'etat of white supremacists known as Trump supporters who decided to take on Capitol Hill to stop the electoral vote count, which eventually would have ratified Joe Biden and Kamala Harris becoming the next president and vice president of the United States. And remember when Trump would rile all those people up and say, we're going to go downtown and we're going to stop this because the vote was legal and all this stuff. Remember that crazy mess? Remember all those crazy white folks that were terrorists that decided to go ahead and literally go after the Capitol? And if it wasn't for the actions of one Capitol security policeman, that it could have went a completely different way inside the Senate? Yeah. Well, the thing about it is 1 year later, and people are worried about the fact that there might be some idiots that are going to stir some stuff up. But one reporter decided to go back and ask questions about Trump supporters, how they post their failed coup d'etat. And trust me, it's not surprising, but this is not. I used to question how cults were made. After listening to this, I don't anymore.
January 6th attack was not the Republicans nor Trump. It was the Democrats were behind it all. They're the ones that caused it all.
Do you really believe that?
I know it. And there is no way that a Republican would act that way. And there is no way that Trump had anything to do with what happened on January 6th.
But what about all the Trump supporters that have been charged and indicted?
Because it's all Democratic judges and people that were on the take from the Democrats.
It's been a year since the attack on the U.S. Capitol. And because of disinformation, denial, and diversion, Americans don't have a shared history, a shared understanding of what happened here on that day.
I think the whole reporting of it is a giant hoax. We are very peaceful people. So it was a total setup. To me, it was the FBI had set it up. I don't believe that they were Trump supporters that did that.
You said the whole thing's a setup. You don't really believe that, do you?
I do. Because Trump won the election. They've proven it over and over again.
When I spoke to Trump supporters here in Washington on January 6th, most were in denial about the results of the 2020 election. Do you accept that Biden won the election?
Absolutely not. Biden did not win this election.
On January 6th, we walked with Trump supporters who marched from the White House, where Trump was doing his speech, here to the U.S. Capitol. And as we arrived here, that is when the first security barrier was breached. At the time, some Trump supporters told me they were happy with what happened here at the Capitol. Are you proud of what happened here today?
Absolutely. I think we should have gone on in and yanked our senators out by the hair of the head and drug them out and said, no more.
I'm absolutely stand behind 100% what happened here today. 1,000%. It was terrible how this election was stolen.
But now many deny Trump supporters are to blame. I spoke to Trump supporters at 2 recent events held by the former president in Florida.
I think that it was set up, and I think that people didn't know what was happening, and I think that they went in there and they were caught in a trap, if you will.
You're suggesting that January 6th was a setup?
Yes.
But you would acknowledge there was a lot of Trump supporters involved in the violence that day.
I didn't see any Trump supporters in the violence. I saw people that pretended to be Trump supporters in that violence.
I really don't think Trump had much to do with it than people that were supporters for him. Some were involved, but I think they were enticed by the FBI and by undercover agents.
Federal prosecutors have charged more than 700 people in connection with the Capitol riot and repeatedly documented the rioters' support for President Trump. But some people in right-wing media have pushed the dangerous idea that it was all an FBI plot.
FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol.
There is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that this was some kind of false flag event staged by the Democrats or the FBI. What would you say to people who say January 6th was the biggest attack on American democracy since the Civil War?
Absolute rubbish.
But amid all the denial and deflection, I met one Trump supporter who said it was important to be real about what happened on that day. What do you think of the Trump supporters that stormed the Capitol?
You talk about misfound feelings. Seeing the folks from my side of the state that were there, and they're not the part of the campaign that we would like to have.
Do you think some Trump supporters that say it's Antifa, it's Black Lives Matter, that they know that that's bullshit, but they just don't want to admit it's easier to blame someone else?
Everyone is afraid to, take the blame. It's that simple.
Crazy, isn't it? That a year later, and this is why I say, when it comes to a cult, it is amazing to me that you have a whole bunch of people. Oh, those weren't Trump supporters. Well, how would you know? They dressed like you, they looked like you, and last time I checked, they acted like you, but they're not Trump supporters because they decided to do something that you wouldn't do. But again, when January 6th came around last year, I didn't see nobody saying, stop, we're not this, we're not that. There was cheering. There was red, there was cheering, there was burning. There was a gallows with a noose hanging in the front of the Senate. Think about that for a second. The gallows with a noose was hanging in front of the Senate while this was all going down. I have yet to hear one Trump supporter sit there and go, no, that shouldn't have happened. We're peaceful people. No, y'all proven y'all ain't. But it is amazing to me that even now, and I keep saying this, especially with the midterms coming up, that we're not too far off from the midterms. And I keep saying this, that Republicans are going to have an easier time trying to convince idiots to vote for them than it will be for Democrats to convince intelligent people to keep voting for them. It is. Because Republicans are going to sit there and say, Democrats have all this power. What have they done? Are your bills up? Is your pay less? Are you not getting everything you need to get? Well, hey, vote for us. We're actually going to fight for you guys. We're gonna take back the control from government, which is funny because they are government. But what are Democrats going to do? On the flip side, Democrats have a hard time too, because they don't got a lot of accomplishments in the win column. At the same time, the ineffectiveness of Kamala Harris. At the same time, Biden has literally had 2 people hold the entire Congress, the entire Democratic Congress, hostage for a lot of his agenda. They're going to have just a hard time, especially in the voting rights area, because again, progressives and black and other people of African Americans have came out and sat there and said that you need to do more to protect voting rights. And again, with the Voting Rights, George Floyd's Police Act, John Lewis Act, all dead in the water. But you know what you did get passed? A COVID-19 hate bill for Asian Americans. which actually got approval from both sides. But yet, when it comes to police reform and when it comes to voting rights, dead in the water. Again, Democrats are going to have a harder time convincing intelligent people to still vote for them, while Republicans will have a less than difficult time trying to convince idiots to give them a shot because they're going to blame the people in power, not understanding that they were the ones that caused the mess in the first place. Again, it feels like it's even though this is 2022, I still feel like this is like 2021 all over again. Especially the simple fact of the matter is, remember that one lady that was a realtor that said that she wasn't going to go to jail and she was a part of the failed coup d'etat with those white terrorists, and she caught so much, man. I think they called her Insurrection Barbie. Yeah, she's back in the news, and she's about as crazy as Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Her now in prison for her role in the January 6th riot. Before she began serving a 60-day sentence, NBC News interviewed her to learn what led her down this path. Here's Kate Snow.
We're going to go down and storm the Capitol. That's why we came, and so that's what we're going to go do. So wish me luck.
Texas realtor Jenna Ryan became one of the most visible participants on January 6th, thanks to her own social media posts. She was invited to fly to D.C. on a private jet by an acquaintance to attend a rally protesting the results of the 2020 election. She documented every move, posts that became evidence used against her in court.
We're all going to be up here. We're going to be breaking those windows.
Ryan says in the end, she was never violent, but pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor for illegally entering the Capitol building.
You did walk into the Capitol, Jenna.
I did.
You wrote on Twitter the next day, "We just stormed the Capitol. It was one of the best days of my life."
You know what? I feel like walking into the Capitol for 2 minutes and 8 seconds was a big mistake. And I pled guilty to that. And I have remorse for that.
The mob ahead of you was breaking windows and forcing their way in.
Okay, well, you would have to be there to really understand the whole situation. People see footage on TV that I wasn't privy to. So to me, it was like we were saying, excuse me, people were polite, and it was beautiful.
Seamus Hughes with George Washington University is closely tracking the January 6th cases.
You're only in there for 2 minutes, but let's put it in context. 1,000 other people were there too. 100 police officers were attacked that day. $1 million worth of property damage. The certification of the election was delayed. I mean, these are serious events.
And every individual is a part of that.
Absolutely.
He says Ryan's 60-day sentence is one of the longest for those charged with nonviolent offenses.
Do you think the judge was trying to make an example of Jenna?
The judge wanted to put a point on it, that this was a crime.
After walking out of the Capitol, Ryan posted this photo of a broken window with a caption.
If the media doesn't quit lying, we're going to come after them next.
So as a person in the media, that's
right.
A threatening thing to say.
It's protected. It's protected speech.
People will hear that and think that's a violent thing to say. And you're showing a broken window next to you. That's what's hard for people to reconcile.
Okay, and so here you go. Back to mob mentality. You get in a crowd of people and it creates a different environment.
We're going to go in here. Life or death. It doesn't matter.
In an interview with NBC's Cynthia McFadden last January, Ryan called herself a martyr.
I am being persecuted here.
She pushed her claim even further in our December interview, comparing herself to victims of genocide.
They are calling me entitled. They're making fun of my skin color. They're calling me an insurrection Barbie. They don't see me as a human. And so that is the epitome of a scapegoat. Just like they did that to the Jews in Germany.
Do you compare what's happening to the Holocaust?
You know what's so sad? That I'm afraid to answer your question because I will be attacked for saying that. I mean, people say that is what it's like. They're like, we feel like that's happening.
I think it's clear through her online postings and the letter to the judge that she's all over the map on whether she accepts responsibility for her actions.
I'm going to end up losing weight in prison.
Her posts have drawn fans and fury.
We hope you get beat in prison.
Some people see you as a giant attempt to get publicity. Okay, to make your name, to increase your following. What do you say to that?
You know, they do say that. And that is so, I'll say yes.
But for the next 6 weeks, she's sitting in federal prison in Bryan, Texas. Kate.
And again, I want to say justice was served, but I don't think it was served enough. you know, she was one of those that, you know, you want to know how easy it is that I keep on saying that folks in this Trump train surprise me? That for the simple fact of the matter is, it always comes down to accountability. There is none. She tried to sit there and say, well, you know, it's a mob mentality, so you kind of go what the mob does. Well, you also went into a mob, and she gonna say, well, I didn't get to see what everybody else saw. You were there. You saw them go through the barricade. You saw them break windows. You saw them break property. You walked into the Capitol building, a place that you did not have permission to walk into. Well, it was just the mob. No, it was you. The mob. I said, it never ceased to amaze me. And they always, why is it always with white people? And I'm going to go ahead and say it. Why is it with always white people that you compare yourselves to the Holocaust? You have nothing. I was like, you cannot compare yourself to genocide. Oh, I'm a martyr. No, you're an idiot. That's what you are. You're a blonde idiot who thought that she could depend on Trump to bail you out. And then when Trump couldn't bail you out, then you realize, oh crap, I can do serious jail time. Let me try to get the same PR team from Fox to sit there and try to explain this mess. Oh, well, people call me Insurrection Barbie. Yeah, I can see that. You might want to stick with that. But yes, this was fame. This was trying to get her on side. This was trying to garnish attention. And the thing what killed me was the one thing that really did her in was her own social media. Her own social media is what brought her in. And again, this is why I sit there and say this is just 1 year later that folks that were there, especially during the failed coup d'etat, will have no accountability. They'll blame everything else. You heard it in 2 different videos that they'll blame everything else but their own actions. Even more so, even on the Fox News side, which again, I don't know why they keep calling themselves. I don't know why Fox News keeps calling themselves Fox News. They are not a news station. I keep saying that. It has been said in legal documents and depositions that Fox News is not a news station, and yet for some odd reason, people still watch it. Why? Because for a lot of people, they watch the news that fits their views. If it fits their views, they'll watch it. That's why more conservatives will probably watch Fox and Fox News and Fox Business because it fits their narrative. Versus a lot of people who are progressive and left will probably watch MSN, NBC, and ABC. And it's not because of the fact that, you know, the ABC is progressive, MSNBC is progressive and all this stuff. It's just the fact of the matter is that, well, out of the four stations I named, 3 of them actually have accomplished journalists and award-winning journalism. One is just sensationalism to an extreme right-hand side. You can pretty much guess which one I'm going to talk about. Don't believe me? Here's them talking about ratings and the fact that Fox News loves disarray in ratings.
Live on the air.
I work at Fox. I want to see disarray on the left. It's good for America. It's good for our ratings.
Joining us now, CNN political commentator S.E. Cupp. I mean, I'm just filing this under stuff we already knew, I guess.
Yeah, it's the quiet part. He said the quiet part. I never would have imagined calling Jesse Waters a scholar. However, I think what he just did is really articulate the 3 pillars of the new American right. The first is that there are 2 Americas, not one. He talks about, wanting to see disarray on the left as if it is somehow not also wanting to see disarray in America. And not just in a political party, but wants real pain in the streets. That's because we're not the United States anymore on the right. There are 2 Americas. One is righteous. One needs to be sort of excised. Number 2 is that the cruelty is the point, right? They want to see the pain and the disarray. They want people like Joe Biden and AOC and Pelosi and liberals to suffer. They're not interested in changing hearts and minds with ideas. They want to see the pain because the cruelty is the point. And thirdly, ratings above all else. That's true at Fox, where certainly ratings have seemed to trump public health and safety and also like facts. But it's also true of the attention economy that has really gripped the right for people like Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. Getting attention is the most important thing.
It's interesting. You talk about the attention economy. You talk about what people will do for ratings. And writer Mark Green was talking about Joe Rogan, who hosts this wildly popular podcast. And this is how he suggests Joe Rogan works. He says Rogan has paid millions of dollars to have controversial opinions and guests because a lot of people really like the feeling of being independent from or looking down on mainstream people and perspectives. Look at his shtick through that lens, and it all makes way more sense. Is that what you're talking about?
Sure. I mean, listen, there's nothing new about being contrarian or shocking, right? I mean, we've had shock jocks. Go back to Morton Downey Jr. if you really kind of want to be shocked. Howard Stern, that's a thing. And you know, it's been a thing for a long time here. The problem is I don't think Joe is very careful with his platform, right? Like during a global pandemic, it might not be the right time to give medical advice, which, by the way, I think Joe knows is not sound, because he sort of walked it back a few months ago saying, listen, I'm not a doctor, don't listen to me, but that hasn't stopped him from giving it out. Look, I don't think Joe Rogan is cruel like Alec Jones is cruel. I don't think he's manipulative intentionally the way I think Tucker Carlson intentionally manipulates his audience. I just think Joe Rogan has a huge platform and he's not very careful with it.
And she's right. She's absolutely right. Reason being, just for the simple fact of the matter is, it goes back to, like I said, Fox News. Fox loves disarray. They love to see the left. They love to see decisiveness. They love to see more fighting and arguing than collaboration. They love to see it, because for a lot of people that don't understand this, one of my favorite wrestling characters on scene, Barry Bischoff, actually made a book about this. Controversy creates cash. And he's right. Controversial and contrarian opinions always lead to ratings, to clicks, to likes, to links, to views, things of that nature. That's what I said about Joe Rogan. I mean, yeah, he made his money on his podcast, and he took a lot of contrarian stances, and he's allowed to, because that's on him. But it's been very lucrative. At the same time, with Fox decided that we're going to give an extreme conservative view, and we're going to make sure that every one of our shows fits that narrative. Don't believe me? Look at Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and douchebag Tucker Carlson. They all literally are saying the same thing on 3 different shows. And on top of that, I keep saying this all the time. I said it does matter because they know their audience. Just like here on social media, like myself doing a podcast and many other people out there that are doing a podcast themselves, we're all trying to get out there and reach out our audience. And how do we do that? For a lot of us, it's either, speaking the truth as it is and giving our opinions of it. And then you have some of those folks out there that would rather take the truth, twist it, bend it, flip it upside down, and then serve it to you with a little bit of sass and comedy. Or just go extremely left or extremely right. That's those folks out there, because, again, they're finding those folks that fit their narrative. However, with Fox News, they don't fit narratives. They fan flames. They gaslight. They literally take something. They literally take a thing of kerosene, go to the nearest spot, and just pour it and watch it fly and just watch it flare. That's what they do. It's not surprising about this that they're called out on it. It's not surprising that you have folks within those Fox News shows like the Fives, and they're saying, "Oh, we love this. This is the kind of stuff we want." You know why? Because, again, it fits the narrative. Even more so when it comes to other. And again, what I say about Fox, when I said love feeding other narratives, they love they love when when their people do certain things. Like, I don't know, like, for example, this next story I'm about to play, where a woman is about to play a voicemail that she got, an Asian woman who is an anchor on a television, who was anchor on a show, where for New Year's Eve, she was explaining about, the good luck dishes. We all know the good luck dishes. Some of us have black eyed peas, some of us have dumplings, some of us have, certain dishes out there, depending on your family and tradition, things of that nature, or heritage. You might have certain things that you want to do to give you good luck in the new year. Well, it seems that one of the viewers decided to take a little step too far, and I guarantee she probably watches Fox News.
Very Asian, and I don't know. She can keep her Korean to herself.
Grains actually symbolize wealth. We can guess why.
Black-eyed peas represent coins. I ate dumpling soup. That's what a lot of Korean people do.
This evening, your Asian anchor mentioned something about being Asian and Asian people eat dumplings on New Year's Day, and kind of take offense to that, because what if one of your white anchors said, well, white people eat this on New Year's Day? I don't think it was appropriate that she said that, and she was being very Asian.
And again, I love that. I love the fact that at the end of it all, folks did come forward and actually really supported her. Just because you have a misguided individual that gets there and say, well, what if her white anchors came out and sat there and said that they eat this on New Year's Day after she said it? Then we would acknowledge it and move the hell on. I'm sorry. Here's the thing what people don't get. For all those confused white people out there, let me explain to you how it feels to be offended. Now, if a black person sits there and says, "Oh, we have black-eyed peas, collard greens, and this on New Year's Day for New Year's Eve for good luck," not offensive. If an Asian person sits there and says, "In my family, we have dumplings or fried duck or any other dish out there, and we have it for New Year's Eve for good luck," not offensive. If you feel like because someone else told you their traditions, which are different than yours, on New Year's Eve for good luck, and you feel offended, you're not offended, you're an idiot. Offended would be a white person sitting there saying, well, all black people eat a fried chicken. Now, although that might be extremely prejudiced and short-sightedness, that's offensive. Or telling all Asian people, oh, I bet all you guys eat is rice and this all day. That's offensive. Because you're assuming a stereotype. No one there goes to a white person and says, you smell like mayonnaise and bad sauerkraut. Then you would be offended. But again, a lot of people don't get that all she was doing was just sharing her traditions. And I like the fact that, so many people came forward and actually defended her and actually was really on her side. But again, this just goes to show you that in America, some people feel like they can say whatever they want, going back to Insurrection Barbie, not realizing that it's not, it's protected speech. It's the fact that it's protected that you can say it. You're not, again, I keep saying this because a lot of people will not understand this. You can say whatever it is that you like to say, but you are not absolved of the consequences that follow afterwards. Because you can sit there, the old saying goes, you go into a building and yell fire and run out. Does not mean that you will still not be in handcuffs by the end of the day because you caused a scene that did not need to happen. So yes, you have every right to say what you want to say, but the consequences and things that follow afterwards are entirely yours. So moving right along, guys, I do got a couple things before we get to our feel good segment. Again, I don't know why. I feel like I said, I feel like we're repeating 2021 all over again in the first month of 2022 because they're courting Manchin again, along with Sinema. Two Democrats have held an entire congressional Congress at bay. But they are the gifts that Republicans never asked for, but they're thankful that they got because of the simple fact of the matter is Democrats have been pushing a lot of things through reconciliation, which means that they did not need the Democrats' vote. They did not need the Republicans' votes at all, but they needed all 50 votes in the Senate for this to pass. And you have two senators Manchin of West Virginia and Sinema of Arizona, who at this point act more Republican than Democrat. And with the fact of the matter of the Build Back Better plan still in the line, they are still trying to court Manchin, even more so that as more progressives and more Black activists are pressuring Biden's administration to bolster voting rights because of all the voting rights changes and rules and laws that have happened in various states to really target minorities, keep preventing. And they came to Manchin to help him because, again, Democrats wanted to actually break the filibuster, to actually get rid of the filibuster. And again, Manchin does what Manchin does. Talks and BSs.
I said this week that you are very close to an agreement on voting rights legislation. One of the main questions has been what kind of national voter ID rules it will include or allow on the state level. What can you tell us about that? And could we see that agreement this week?
Well, as I say, we all have a desire. First of all, the whole stronghold of our democracy, the bedrock of our democracy, is an open, fair, and secured election. People have to know that basically at the end of the day, when the count's made, it's accurate, and either you've won or I've won. However it's done, it's supposed to be an orderly transfer. Under President Trump, we have not seen an orderly transfer. We have not seen an acceptance of basically the will of the people, and that has made it very difficult. So when you have 41 million people still believing that maybe Joe Biden's not the duly elected, which he absolutely is, and it was done in a very fair and a very, very secure system, that we've got to make sure whatever we do, we don't divide our country further. So people say, well, what's Joe going to do? Or what's he for or against? I will not do anything, Jake, that'll separate our country further. And to do a major overhaul on voter and on voting rights bill, take the Voting Rights Act that we had in 65, use your John Lewis, and John Lewis, the most decent human being, and make sure we stay within the guidelines of what we're supposed to protect the elections, not going into this expansive overhaul, if you will, to the point to where it can be overturned in court. And we've been seeing the courts overturn some of this.
I know you want it to be bipartisan, but I don't know how possible that is. The only Republican I've heard talk about this in a positive way is Lisa Murkowski of Alaska.
You know what I can't understand, Jake, and I'm sorry to interrupt you on that, but I cannot understand how did they pass 98-0 in 2006, and now it's not possible for that to happen?
I don't know, but is there any circumstance under which you could imagine allowing a carve out for the, I know you oppose getting rid of the filibuster, but there's some people in the more moderate camp, like Angus King of Maine, who's an independent, who said that he's possibly willing to step back from the filibuster, his opposition to getting rid of the filibuster, just for voting rights, because he's so concerned and it's become so partisan. Can you imagine ever doing that?
Jake, I can't imagine a carve out, because I was here in 2013 when it was called a carve out. We're just going to do the cabinet for the president, and then it went into, we're going to do the judges who are lifetime appointments for circuit and district. They were even going to do Supreme Court, but they didn't at that time. The Democrats were in control. 2017, Mitch McConnell's in control, comes right back in, and guess what? That carve out worked to really carve us up pretty bad.
Yeah.
Then you got the Supreme Court. Okay, so there's no stopping it. And if we don't put this place back in order, you get rid of the filibuster, which makes us work together. And I've said this: the brilliancy of our founding fathers was this. Why in the world did they give 2 senators to Rhode Island and Delaware at the time they were forming this great nation of ours, when they told New York and Pennsylvania and Ohio, hey, you only get 2 too? It was basically to make us work together so that the big states wouldn't overrun the little states. It's a minority participation.
No. Couple problems with that. The reason why Rhode Island got 2 senators, as well as New York and Pennsylvania got 2 senators, because what he tried to reference a long time ago was based off populations, not exactly what's actually happening now. So again, you can see that Manchin is stuck in the past. He also mentioned the vote. He also mentioned the 65 Voting Rights Act and the John Lewis Act, which again is to honor the late great senator who was actually very provincial, civil rights actor, the civil rights activist, the guy always said, get into good trouble, which again, that was the lighter acts of the Voting Rights Act. Keep in mind, the Voting Rights Act, was actually perfect. You know why it was perfect? It stopped gerrymandering. It made elections a federal holiday. It allowed all forms of voting, automatic voter registration. Oh, and my personal favorite, prevented other states from putting in laws or unnecessary infractions that basically targeted minorities from voting. And yet Manchin has a problem with it. How do you have a problem with something that was already perfect? And the John Lewis Voting Rights Act was basically a less amount of it, but still would be effective. But guess what? You didn't vote for it either, Manchin, which is kind of funny that you bring it up in this. And he talks about bipartisanship. I don't know what it is. This is why I say when it comes to moderate Democrats, it's like moderate Democrats are just Republican light. They are. And Manchin is acting Republican in every sense of the word. And this is why I say I can't be one of those people that interviews these guys, because the first thing I'm going to stand and say is, okay, cut the BS. Are you voting yes or no? He's like, I don't want the dance. Well, we should remove the filibuster. Well, you tried bipartisanship, and I would have pointed out that you do realize most Republicans have said no to everything the Democrats have pushed through since they've basically been in office. So doesn't bipartisanship require two people? You can't ask one side of the table to come forward while the other side of the table is going, you can't. So again, Manchin, I hate to say this in so many words, sir, you are honestly full of crap. And you are doing nothing more to protect your seat because, again, the midterms are coming up. Democrats need a win. Republicans just need to convince idiots. That's it. And Republicans will have an easier time convincing idiots to vote for them than they will for Democrats to convince minorities to say, hey, we didn't do anything for you guys this year, but still give us a shot. I mean, we're still better than the Republicans. Yes, I wonder which party's going to have the easier time getting votes. Just saying. But speaking of Biden, Biden has infinite wisdom decided that, hey, meat prices are getting a little high. So instead of going to the 4 major meat processing companies and actually trying to figure out why prices are so high, we know that they're high. It's not because of supply chain issues. It's because that most companies now have seen a way to illegally price gouge and make a profit in a pandemic, but still make it seem like there's a shortage. There's not a shortage. Companies have figured out how to make a profit in a pandemic. And what good old Joe decided to do was, let's invest in the meat market. I wish I could make this up.
I'll say it again. Capitalism without competition isn't capitalism. It's exploitation. That's what we're seeing in meat and poultry, those industries now. Small independent farmers and ranchers are being driven out of business, sometimes businesses that have been around for generations. It strikes at their dignity, their respect, and the family legacy so many of them carry for generations after generation. We're going to invest $1 billion in new and expanded meat and poultry processing capacity, funding that was included in the American Rescue Plan to revive our economy, to bring in more competition and dignity and more farmers, ranchers, and customers. We're going to invest in new and innovative small businesses and meat processors, the lifeblood of our economy. Today, the Justice Department and the USDA announced a joint initiative to make it easier for farmers and ranchers to report potentially illegal practices in the agricultural sector. A free market isn't truly free without transparency around prices. How do you justify the price? And right now, that's largely disappeared in the cattle market, transparency. Back in August, the Department of Agriculture took steps to address this, and we're going to keep pushing. And I'm pleased to see that Congress is taking action as well to increase competition.
So again, I get the fact that, okay, so you're going to pump money to see what's going on and why prices are so high among these companies. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, it sounds like you're doing a one big ass PPP loan for farmers. And again, I keep saying this all the time, farmers have gotten more assistance among administrations than regular people. But the whole thing here is like, well, we're going to investigate why the prices are so high because there's no transparency there. Ding, ding. I think that's the problem. Why? I mean, because aside from the fact of the obvious reason that companies are jacking up their prices, I mean, you see it everywhere. People will use this pandemic and cite supply chain issues and store and commodities and inventory. They will cite everything out of the book because you know why? That gives them carte blanche to jack up their prices. And people will complain, but unfortunately, we need these products. And especially when it comes to food, toiletries, fruits and vegetables, things of that nature. I mean, almost everything has gone up. Your fast food favorites have gone up. And these companies that swear up and down that they have to jack up these prices are making profits in a pandemic. And now we're doing a PPP loan for farmers, but no one is asking why, again, these companies like Tyson, like Purdue, like many other places that put this meat out there on the table for us to buy is why are the prices so high? Nobody's asking that question. But again, the whole thing about a free market, again, it's not the fact that, there's no competition. There's plenty of competition, but the competition has realized that the competition is not amongst themselves. It's getting the American people to pay more for the same thing they've been getting. And that apparently is flying over the administration's head. But another thing I found interesting, $1 billion is going into this from the infrastructure bill that got passed. And yet, student loans are still a problem. $1 billion, but again, we can't seem to tackle our $1.7 trillion student loan debt. Okay. That being said, guys, we're going to move over to our feel-good segment because usually on How the Frack we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you want to lose your faith in the human race. But hey, it's Wednesday. For a lot of us, tomorrow's going to be Friday, which is Thursday, and especially if you're in Tennessee, Mother Nature right now is deciding to hit us with snow. So between today and tomorrow, it's going to be quite interesting. Beyond that, guys, we want to actually leave you with a good note, something that, warms up your heart, puts a spring in your step and a song in your heart, makes you kind of give you hope. Like, it's going to work out. And with this story, again, this actually follows the story of the Virginia highway about a days back where people were stranded on the highway for 27 plus hours. I cannot imagine being stranded on a highway for literally 27 hours, and especially being got no food. Oof, no food, no bathroom. Oof. But again, here's a story of a guy who basically gave a random act of kindness, who just wanted to help out his fellow temporary road mates for a little while, if you will. I just thought it was cool.
It's a simple act. America strong. It was the nightmare more than 27 hours long on I-95, and tonight here, the angel in his truck. Giancarlo Gachet left his truck, walking up to the car stuck right there in front of him, asking, would you like a warm meal? Right here tonight. Hi, David. Giancarlo on why the small acts of kindness made the difference.
Us as truckers, we have the resources. We have water, we have food.
And we wondered, what was the breakfast?
Jimmy Dean breakfast bowl. These are really good, tasty. Bacon, egg, and cheese.
Breakfast. The guy in the truck behind you.
Just knowing I could step out and lend someone a hand like that meant a lot to me.
The light.
And again, I thought that was cool. Like I said, random. It is literally and figuratively random acts of kindness. You guys, I have said this so many times, and I'm going to keep saying this again. I pretty much think, besides sports, is what's going to save this world, is random acts of kindness. If you have the ability to make somebody's life great, whether it's a minute, a day, an hour, a lifetime, go ahead and do so. The world could use more random acts of kindness. And that trucker definitely did stand out in that person's head, because for 27 hours, you ain't had enough food. That Jimmy Dean's sausage, egg, and bacon bowl looks heavenly, aside from the sodium. But again, it was a nice act, just making sure that if you have enough for someone else to share, that is always a groovy thing. So that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I do thank you for watching, for liking, for letting people know that we're live and commenting. I certainly appreciate it. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. I do want to always shout out, first and foremost, my buddy, Big BZA Dot, which you can find him, Adamon Westwood, on Facebook, Big BZA Dot on socials, which he will be returning back pretty soon, as he usually does his Smoking Trailer Sundays, every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m., in which he shows trailers of video games, movies, and shows, things that he finds interesting that he wants to share with you. He also does the REF podcast, like America's Funniest Home Videos, except done by WorldStar. So only for the grown and intended. So definitely check him out. The Bond Westwood on Facebook or Big BZA on all socials. Also, check out my buddies RN Geek Present Geek Salad, which you can find them on Facebook and YouTube. That's actually a YouTube page. A couple of podcasting brethren I met earlier last year. They do talk everything pop culture and some things about, and it's definitely unfiltered and it's definitely very opinionated and intelligent. But definitely give them a like, share. Definitely you can find them, like I said, RN Geek Present Geek Salad on Facebook as well as YouTube, as you're seeing right there. Now, as for me, guys, the link that's scrolling down at the bottom, if you copy and paste that into your browser, will take you to my link tree for the that'll have the Facebook and YouTube group for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course the Optimus podcast. Again, we're still moving strong, guys. So again, with every schedule hasn't changed. We will actually be because of certain conditions, we will be having an Optimus podcast again. I know it's been a while, but we'll definitely get back on that track. This Saturday evening. So definitely strap in for that, because it's definitely going to be awfully off limits, because I do got a couple of subjects I want to talk about. Aside from that, guys, like I said before, again, with the COVID and the weather, because right now, Mother Nature does not like the South. She likes the South as much as she doesn't like the North at this point. So definitely be safe, be warm, always have emergency roadside kits on you. Always be, gloved up and heavy jacketed, full tank of gas, and wherever you go. Like I said, it's always, think ahead and be prepared, and you'll never be surprised. And also, if you haven't been vaccinated, I don't know how to say this enough. Please get vaccinated. Please get both shots in the booster. Your family will thank you for it. You will thank you for it. I do not want to see another person go to the hospital, near death from a COVID infection, and then at the end of the time, sit there and saying, "I wish I got the shot." Let's do it. Let's get ourselves vaccinated before it gets to that point. That is all I ask people to do that, because when you protect yourself, you protect others, and that's what's going to make us turn around this pandemic. That's the only way we can do it. I mean, we don't want to head back to lockdown, but we have to do what is need to be done to get past this pandemic and get back to some sense of normalcy, because the old normal that we thought we could get back to is forever gone. So we need to move forward. That being said, guys, the last thing I'll say about How the Frack Got Here is all about staying informed. We are not trying to change minds. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are not trying to persuade you. We are basically doing this. We are giving you all the information that you see from reputable sources and allowing you to make up your own mind. We do a lot better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that should have been done back then, like electing our first Madam Vice President who was Black. Still hoping for Michelle Obama and her husband in 2024, because if there's anything in this world that's going to beat Trump, it's going to be a Black woman. That being said, guys, thank you all for watching. If you're watching this on the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys thought about the podcast and everything that we discussed tonight. Aside from that, guys, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll get through this. Peace.